Most men never see it coming. They think everything is fine until one day she says, "We need to talk," and suddenly the relationship is over. The truth is, before a woman ends things, she almost always gives off signals, clear ones if you know what to look for. But here's the catch. These signals aren't direct. She won't come out and say, "I'm losing interest." Instead, she'll show it in subtle changes in her behavior, her tone, and the way she interacts with you. And if you're not paying attention, you'll mistake those signs for mood swings, stress, or just how women are. Wrong. Women are emotional, but they're also intentional when it comes to relationships. If she's already halfway out the door, her actions will shift long before her words do. Think of it as a silent countdown clock. You just haven't noticed it ticking. The men who miss these signals end up blindsided, confused, and wondering what went wrong. But the men who understand them know the truth. When she's done, she's already decided, and every little action is proof of it. 1. She starts creating distance, emotionally and physically. One of the very first and most obvious signs that a woman wants to end the relationship is that she begins to distance herself from you, both emotionally and physically. And here's the truth. This doesn't usually happen overnight. It's gradual. At first, you might notice little things. She doesn't text you as quickly as before. She doesn't share as much about her day. Or she starts keeping certain thoughts and feelings to herself. What used to feel natural and open now feels forced and shallow. This is where many men make a critical mistake. They assume she's just busy or stressed. But pay close attention. Women rarely withhold emotional connection unless something deeper is happening. When a woman values the relationship, she wants you involved in her world. She wants to tell you the details, even the small ones. But when she's mentally checking out, she starts shutting you out without saying it. That emotional gap is the warning sign most men ignore. Now, it doesn't stop there. Emotional distance almost always leads to physical distance. You'll notice she isn't as affectionate anymore. Hugs feel shorter, kisses feel routine, intimacy feels less frequent. And when it does happen, it feels different, like she's just there, but not really connected. She may even start avoiding physical closeness altogether, using excuses like being tired, stressed, or just not in the mood. And here's the harsh reality. When a woman pulls back physically, it's often because she's already pulling away emotionally. And in her mind, the relationship is fading. Another subtle but powerful indicator is her body language. Instead of leaning in during conversations, she might lean back or angle away from you. Instead of maintaining warm eye contact, she may start looking at her phone, the TV, or anywhere but at you. These are small things, but together they create a pattern. She's no longer invested in the connection. Here's the important part. When a woman creates this distance, she's not looking for you to chase harder or smother her with attention. That only makes her pull away faster. What she's really doing is testing whether she still feels something for you or if she's already detached completely. And once that detachment sets in, the relationship is usually on its last legs. So, when you notice emotional coldness, less physical affection, and a growing space between you, don't dismiss it as a phase. Recognize it for what it is, one of the clearest signs she's preparing to end things. 2. She stops investing in the relationship. Another major sign that a woman is ready to walk away is when she stops putting effort into the relationship. Think about it. When someone cares deeply, they naturally invest. They check in, they compromise, they make plans, and they try to keep the connection alive. But when a woman's heart starts leaving before her body does, that effort disappears. At first, it might look like little things. Maybe she doesn't text you good morning anymore. Maybe she no longer asks about your day or follows up on things you've told her. The conversations become shorter, drier, and more surface level. What used to be thoughtful responses turn into one-word replies like okay or cool. These aren't accidents. they're signs of detachment. She's no longer motivated to nurture the bond because in her mind, she's preparing for life without it. It also shows up in how she engages with you socially. A woman who's still invested will want to plan things together, whether it's date nights, trips, or even small routines like cooking or watching a show. But when she's checked out, suddenly those plans stop. She's too busy, too tired, or simply uninterested. The energy she used to put into making memories with you is redirected elsewhere, toward her friends, her career, her hobbies, or even just scrolling endlessly on her phone. And if you notice she starts cancelling or avoiding plans with you more than usual, that's not random. That's a sign she's mentally done. Even the way she handles conflict changes. When a woman cares, she argues. She brings up issues, tries to talk through them, and even if it's messy, the goal is resolution. But when she no longer sees a future with you, she stops fighting altogether. She doesn't bring up problems because in her mind, there's no point. Silence replaces effort, and indifference replaces passion. That silence is far more dangerous than any argument. It means she's already given up. Here's the bottom line. Relationships thrive on effort, and when that effort disappears, so does the relationship. A woman doesn't just get lazy in love. If she's not investing anymore, whether it's emotionally, physically, or in shared experiences, it's because she's already pulling her energy out of the connection. And by the time you notice, she may already be halfway gone. 3. She becomes increasingly critical of you. One of the strongest indicators that a woman is preparing to end the relationship is when she shifts from being supportive to being overly critical. Now, don't confuse this with normal feedback or occasional disagreements. Every relationship has those. What I'm talking about is a steady pattern of negativity, where almost everything you do seems to irritate her. At the start of a relationship, women usually overlook your flaws. In fact, she might even find your quirks endearing. But when she's losing interest, those same quirks suddenly become problems. The way you dress, the way you talk, the way you eat, the way you laugh, things that never bothered her before now seem to annoy her. And here's the truth. It's not really about those small things. It's about her feelings shifting and her mind searching for reasons to justify why she wants to leave. Criticism also becomes sharper and less constructive. Instead of saying, "Hey, I'd like it if you did this differently," it turns into, "You always do this wrong," or "You never listen." The language becomes absolute, filled with blame and frustration. That's because she's no longer looking for solutions. She's venting the dissatisfaction that's been building inside her. And whether you realize it or not, she's emotionally separating herself while making you feel like the problem. Another thing to notice is her tone. When a woman still cares, even if she's upset, there's warmth in her voice somewhere. But when she's detached, her words feel colder, harsher, almost like she doesn't care how they land. She's not worried about hurting your feelings anymore because she's already preparing to cut ties. This critical behavior also shows up in public or around others. She might joke at your expense, roll her eyes, or dismiss you in front of friends or family. These aren't just slips of the tongue. They're signs that her respect is fading, and with it, her desire to maintain the relationship. Here's the key thing. When criticism outweighs appreciation, attraction dies. A woman who's constantly finding fault is no longer building the relationship. She's tearing it down piece by piece. And once she's in that mindset, it usually means she's mentally rehearsing her exit. So, if you notice her shifting from admiration to constant criticism, don't brush it off as stress. Understand it for what it is. A warning that she's emotionally checked out and preparing to walk away. 4. She withdraws her emotional support. One of the clearest signs a woman is ready to end the relationship is when she stops being your emotional anchor. Think back. When things were good, she was your biggest supporter. If you had a tough day, she listened. If you had a win, she celebrated with you. She was there to encourage, to comfort, and to push you forward. But when she's preparing to leave, that emotional support slowly fades away. At first, it might feel subtle. You come to her with a problem, and instead of really engaging, she gives a half-hearted "oh" or "that sucks." You share an accomplishment, and her excitement feels forced or minimal. Over time, you start to notice that she's not really present when you talk about your life. Her responses become shorter, her patience thinner, and her willingness to be part of your ups and downs almost non-existent. This shift is powerful because emotional support is one of the cornerstones of intimacy. When a woman withdraws it, she's signaling that she no longer sees herself as part of your journey. She's no longer invested in building a future with you. She's quietly detaching from your struggles and your victories alike. It also shows up in the way she handles your vulnerability. A woman who's still committed will want to hear your thoughts, your fears, your insecurities, because closeness matters to her. But when she's mentally checking out, she'll start brushing those moments aside. She might change the subject, give a dismissive response, or even act annoyed that you're opening up. What used to bond you now feels like a burden to her. Another sign is when she no longer shares her own emotions with you. When a woman cares, she wants to let you into her world, her dreams, her stress, her little frustrations. But when she's done, she shuts that door. Suddenly, you don't know what's going on in her life anymore. She stops confiding, stops leaning on you, and starts keeping everything to herself. Or worse, sharing it with other people instead. Here's the bottom line. When emotional support disappears, so does the foundation of the relationship. Love without support is just an empty shell. And when she no longer shows up for you emotionally, it's because she no longer wants the role of being your partner. That silence isn't random. It's the sound of her leaving before she ever says the words. 5. She prioritizes everything else over you. When a woman wants to end the relationship, one of the most revealing signs is how her priorities shift. In the beginning, you were high on her list. She carved out time for you, made you part of her plans, and found excuses to be around you. But when her feelings start to fade, you'll notice something different. Suddenly, everything else takes priority. Her work, her friends, her hobbies, her family, even random things that never seemed important before. And you slowly get pushed further down the list. Here's the key. Women make time for what they value. If she's still invested, no matter how busy her life gets, she'll find ways to include you. But when she's mentally checked out, busy becomes her favorite excuse. She'll cancel plans last minute. She'll say she's too tired, or she'll claim she has too much going on. On the surface, it looks reasonable. But in reality, it's her way of creating space and slowly pulling herself out of the relationship. You'll also notice it in the small things. Maybe she used to call you on her lunch break, but now scrolls through social media instead. Maybe she used to spend weekends with you, but now she's always with friends. It's not that she suddenly discovered new passions. It's that she no longer feels motivated to give her time and energy to you. Time is the truest currency of love, and when she stops spending it on you, she's already invested elsewhere. Even her energy during the moments you do spend together feels different. Instead of being present, she might seem distracted, always checking her phone or planning her next move. Conversations feel rushed, outings feel forced, and her effort feels minimal. It's like she's physically there, but mentally somewhere else. And that disconnect is no accident. It's the quiet signal that she's no longer prioritizing the relationship. Here's where many men slip up. They start begging for time, pushing for more attention, or trying to guilt her into putting them first again. But that only drives her further away. Why? Because women don't respond to pressure when they've already detached. They respond to clarity and strength. So, if you notice that she consistently puts everything else above you, don't ignore it. Understand it for what it is. She's not too busy. She's just showing you, without words, that you're no longer her priority. And once you're not a priority, the relationship is already on borrowed time. 6. She becomes secretive and less transparent. When a woman is ready to end a relationship, one of the strongest signs is that she starts becoming secretive. In the early days, she likely shared everything with you: where she was going, who she was with, what she was doing. Not because you demanded it, but because she wanted you to be part of her world. But when her feelings shift, that transparency begins to fade. Suddenly, she doesn't feel the need to keep you updated anymore. It often starts small. Maybe she used to tell you when she was hanging out with her friends, but now you find out only after the fact. Maybe she used to leave her phone lying around, but now it's always face down or glued to her hand. Maybe she used to answer questions openly, but now her answers are vague, short, or defensive. She'll say things like, "Why do you need to know?" or "Don't worry about it." That defensiveness isn't random. It's a wall she's building between you and her personal life. Secrecy also shows up in how she handles her schedule. A woman who's invested will want to include you in her plans, but a woman who's pulling away keeps her plans separate. She becomes busy without explanation, goes out without telling you the details, or avoids giving straight answers about where she's been. The less she tells you, the clearer it is. She no longer wants you inside her inner circle. Another subtle sign is her phone and social media behavior. If she suddenly guards her phone, changes her passwords, or becomes extra private about her online activity, that's not coincidence. It doesn't always mean she's seeing someone else, but it does mean she's creating emotional distance. She doesn't feel obligated to share her world with you anymore, because in her mind, you're no longer her partner. You're just someone she's phasing out. Here's the truth. Secrecy is the opposite of intimacy. Relationships thrive on openness and trust, but when she starts hiding things, it's a sign she's emotionally checked out. And the more secretive she becomes, the more obvious it is that she's preparing for life without you. Men often make the mistake of confronting this with anger or accusations, but that only pushes her further into secrecy. The smarter move is to recognize it for what it is, a signal that her heart is no longer in the relationship. Once transparency disappears, it's only a matter of time before the relationship itself does too. 7. She talks about the future, and you're not in it. One of the most telling signs that a woman is ready to end the relationship is when she starts envisioning her future without including you in it. In the beginning, she probably said things like, "When we go there," "When we do this," or "I can't wait for us to." That word, us, is the key word. It meant she saw you as part of her long-term plans. But when she's preparing to leave, that language disappears. Suddenly, the future is all about her, not you. You'll notice it in casual conversations. She might talk about her career, her travel goals, or where she wants to live someday. But your name never comes up. She plans trips without you. She sets goals without involving you. And she speaks about her life as if you're not in the picture. That's not an accident. It's her subconscious way of emotionally detaching while planting the seeds of independence. It can also show up in how she reacts when you bring up the future. Maybe you mention moving in together, traveling as a couple, or even long-term commitments like marriage. Instead of getting excited, she becomes vague, dismissive, or even uncomfortable. She'll say things like, "Let's not think that far ahead," or "I don't know what the future holds." But the truth is, she does know. She just doesn't see you in it anymore. Another subtle shift is how she talks about the relationship itself. A woman who wants to build with you will use language like we and us instinctively. But when she's pulling away, her language changes. She starts saying, "I more than we, my goals, my plans, my life." That change in wording is small, but it carries a heavy meaning. She's no longer seeing herself as part of a team with you. Here's the harsh reality. When a woman mentally removes you from her future, the relationship is already dying. It doesn't matter what's happening day to day. If she no longer imagines you by her side in the years ahead, she's already checked out. Most men ignore this until it's too late. They think she's just being independent or focused on herself. But independence isn't the problem. Exclusion is. If she can talk about her dreams, her goals, and her future without once including you, it's because she doesn't want you there. And that, more than anything else, is the final sign that she's preparing to end things. At the end of the day, women rarely end a relationship out of nowhere. Long before the final conversation, they leave breadcrumbs: emotional distance, lack of effort, secrecy, criticism, and a future that no longer includes you. Most men ignore these signs until it's too late, which is why the breakup feels sudden. But the truth is, she already left long before she said the words. The key is to recognize these patterns early, not to panic, not to beg, but to understand. Because once you see the signs clearly, you'll never be blindsided again.